Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to a smoking cessation hypnosis session, but not for someone to quit. This was created for a client that had already quit smoking for about 2 weeks and was worried that they weren't going to remain a non-smoker. And that's a common concern, particularly for people that have quit in the past and then returned to smoking. There's a feeling of, well, what if it happens again? But you could look at it as a sense of wisdom and perspective that wasn't there before. So you kind of know the pitfalls, and there's ways of framing them to avoid falling into certain narratives. One of the narratives that quite often a non-smoker makes if they've smoked before is that, well, just one won't hurt, just one will be okay. And quite often that is not true, because it reactivates all of the neural pathways that associate pleasure with smoking. And then it's almost like, to use a snakes and ladders analogy, falling on the snake. Now, it's not quite square one. To get to square one, you have to have a setback and then continue to smoke the following day, and then reach a point where you're smoking just as much as you were before. So there's a bit of work that has to happen to get back to where things were before. But this was a fear, and it was a fear that came from two places. One, he was using smoking as a form of let's just say coping with tough times. There was a feeling of, well, if he goes through a bad patch in life, is he going to return to smoking? It's a valid fear. And another is the kind of the social pressure. If you meet up with old friends and they smoke, and they might encourage you to smoke, and if that kind of activates or anchors a state of, feeling, fun or youth, then it could reactivate them. So actually in this hypnosis session, I actually use a metaphor from a Greek myth, and it's I'm guarantee I'm pronouncing it wrong, but there's a Greek myth based on a character called Sisyphus, and Sisyphus is almost punished by the gods of being forced to push a heavy boulder up a hill, only for it to roll all the way back down again. So I partially use this Greek myth as a metaphor in the sense that it is difficult to go from being a smoker to a non-smoker. He'd already got so far. He, hadn't smoked anything for about a couple of weeks, was feeling good about his life and the progress. So you could imagine that the boulder is halfway up the hill, but it's not quite there. If it reaches the top, that's because he's a non-smoker that would never, ever smoke again. So then it frames things in a different way, in the sense that there's still a bit more work to be done, because you've got to hang out with friends that smoke and then not smoke. You've got to get through tough times and not revert back to smoking. You've got to be, in these kind of environments that you used to smoke and then not smoke, and now as a non-smoker. So this metaphor of continuing to push the boulder up the hill gives it a sense of there's still more work to be done, which creates a determined state and a resilient state and a feeling of determination, which I think is very useful when you're at that kind of period where you want to solidify a change. Sometimes the change, just making the change isn't enough. You've got to sustain that change, and that's really what this is all about. For those people that regularly listen to my stuff, you might also notice there's levels of disassociations. And I did a talk at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference a few days ago, and I was doing a talk on nested loops, and it went down very well, and people, were talking hypnotherapists that have been doing this a long time, really appreciated my style of introducing nested loops. So when you hear this kind of almost stories within stories, so, you float up out of your body, go into a picture, into a building, then in a building, down a staircase. Each one of those is a level deeper in this levels of disassociation. I call it the Inception Induction because if you're familiar with the movie Inception, the whole premise of the movie is dreams within dreams within dreams. So for the hypnotherapist listening, you might pick up on that, and also how I reverse that as well. I'm probably going to do a session soon where the example nested loops that I actually did in that presentation, I still remember them because it uses mnemonics to construct the nested loop. So I'll probably do that soon just because it was quite a fun one to do and I haven't recorded it. So why not? If you are a smoker that doesn't want to smoke, or if you feel that, you've just started to become a non-smoker or reduce some kind of habit or addiction and you're worried about relapsing, there will be a link in the show notes where you can schedule a completely free consultation call to explore working with me. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a slow, relaxing, resourceful breath. And as you exhale, just allow your eyelids to close. As they close, become aware, not just of the sound of my voice, but become aware of everything related to you. The speed of your breathing. Maybe you can detect heart rate, pulse rate. But imagine you're scanning your body as you breathe in and breathe out for any clues of tension. Maybe tension around the jaw, the forehead, neck or shoulders. As you breathe in that feeling of relaxation, give permission to melt away that tension, any echoes of stress. And as you breathe out, feel it leave your body so that every breath you take enables you to feel deeper and deeper relaxed. Not because relaxation is necessary for hypnosis, just because it's like oil in the cogs. It can make the whole process easier and more efficient. So as you release the tension, feeling it melt away, you feel a wonderful feeling of sinking downwards into a state of pure relaxation. The deeper you breathe, the deeper relaxed you go. And the deeper relaxed you go, the deeper into a state that activates the power of your imagination. So breathing in and breathing out. And I want you to use that power of your imagination to imagine that you're floating up out of your body. Keep your physical body there, exactly where it is. And imagine how it would feel to float up out of your body, seeing you looking relaxed there in that location. Imagine picking up your wrist and feeling how limp and loose that wrist is. So if you were to let go, it would just sink all the way back down. Notice how deep you're breathing. And then observe some art or a picture nearby of skyscrapers. Breathing in and breathing out. Allow your physical body to stay where it is and just imagine staring at a skyscraper in a picture. And use the power of your imagination to imagine how it would feel to step into the picture, to start making your way to one of the skyscrapers on the very top floor. And I want you to find a penthouse apartment, perhaps in New York City, perhaps not even in the present time. This is just your imagination. You can go anywhere. Imagine a penthouse apartment in a city. And when you could imagine what it would be like to be in that location, just let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to imagine there is incredible views. Maybe full-length windows. But somewhere there, in that imaginary penthouse apartment, is the most comfortable bed you've ever seen. I want you to imagine placing yourself on that bed, head on a very comfortable pillow, just sinking into the bed. And as I count down from 10 to 1, you will imagine feeling deeper and deeper relaxed, just in your imagination, so relaxed that you can imagine going into a dreamlike sleep in a bed, in an apartment, in a city, in a picture, in your imagination, feeling the sensation of your skin there on that material on that bed, maybe cotton, silk, or something else. Breathing in, breathing out. 10, just release all the muscles there around your forehead. 9, as you breathe in, feel how good it feels to release any tension around the mouth, the jaw. That's it. 8, focusing now, and all the tiny muscles behind your ear, all the way down your neck into your shoulders. As there on that bed, it just feels like all the tension is melting away, taking you into a state of increasing relaxation. 7, feeling that relaxation going down, deep down into your arms, forearms, all the way down into your fingers. Arms feeling limp, loose and heavy. That's it. Then 6, just start to become aware of everything connected with breath. Your nostrils, windpipe. Those tiny muscles in the chest all the way down into the diaphragm. And as you release that tension, notice you can breathe in and breathe out, deeper and more effortless. As you start to imagine that your lungs are healing. Perhaps you can remember a time where you had a dirty car and you took it into a car wash, and it felt so satisfying to see the difference. And the longer you become a non-smoker, the more your body can clean and repair your lungs. Imagine that happening now. And then 5, just imagine that there's other things as well that start to become more healthy. Your heart, your circulatory system, your stomach, your gut, all healing, all improving. And then 4, just feel that relaxation going deep, deep down into the gut. Any worries about being dragged back, any worries about falling back into old habits can be easily dispelled. You're not a child anymore. You are the master of your own destiny. You can always decide to be a smoker that doesn't want to smoke whenever you choose. That's your prerogative. But maybe a better option is to be a non-smoker that doesn't want to smoke, giving you a feeling of freedom, possibility, and increased health and vitality. And then 3, feeling like your legs are getting heavy and relaxed, and then 2 into your calf muscles, and then 1 into your feet, and feeling a wave of relaxation from your toes to the top of your head all the way back down to your fingers, as you imagine how it would feel to fall asleep on a bed in a penthouse, perhaps in New York City, drifting into a dreamlike sleep. And imagine there is a spiral staircase in that dream. As you go down the spiral staircase, you notice it takes you to the very depths of your unconscious mind. Whatever you see there is exactly what you should see there. And if it's nothing at all, just allow your mind to be more open to suggestions that could lead to change, to improve the quality of your life. On any given day, you can make a decision to make your life worse. So why not make a decision to make your life better? Breathing in and breathing out. I want you to imagine now the spiral staircase has led to the foot of a very large hill. And I want you to imagine at the foot of that very large hill is a boulder. Heavy, but not impossible to move. And I want you to feel like you're a character in a Greek myth. You have a challenge, a quest. You have to get the boulder from the bottom of the hill all the way up to the top. It's a challenge, but not impossible. So imagine feeling the texture of this boulder on your fingertips, feeling the weight as you push it. It requires concentration, dedication, strength, and effort. It takes a lot to make a tiny bit of progress, but you make that progress. You're becoming stronger, more disciplined, more determined. And what if you were to imagine it was very easy for you to become a smoker? Children goading you to smoke, and you did, until an addiction took hold. And imagine that was the point that the boulder at the top of the hill fell all the way down to the bottom. You are a non-smoker, but to solidify your identity as a non-smoker, there will be challenges. The first time you spend time with people that you used to smoke with and yet don't. The first time you go through a difficult period in your life, there may be a temptation to buy a packet of cigarettes. All of these are challenges, things that will prevent you from pushing the boulder up the top of the hill. But there is a feeling of satisfaction and pride in doing something difficult and challenging. You've already done the hard work. Accepting the identity of a non-smoker means that the boulder is already halfway up the hill. You are now just solidifying that identity. So feel the weight of the boulder. All the work you've put in so far has got the boulder so far up the hill. And you know what you need to do to solidify this identity. Simply avoid the pitfalls of the past and make everyone else aware of your identity in the same way that you are, and then be congruent with that new identity. So feel that you're making progress. As the days turn into weeks and the weeks turn into months, the boulder gets closer to the top. And then imagine perhaps being in a pub. Maybe a friend offers you a cigarette. And in that moment, you could say yes, and the boulder would roll all the way down to the bottom of the hill. Or you could say no. And by saying no, the boulder gets closer to the top of the hill. Consciously, I already know your decision, but unconsciously, if there's a desire to keep making progress, that you can make progress simply by saying no, which takes no effort at all. Let me know by nodding your head. I want you to dig deep into your subconscious mind, the part that used to enjoy smoking, the part that used to feel like it needed it. And let's ask that part, are you strong enough, determined enough to say no when the time comes? The easy thing to do sometimes leads to a challenging aftermath. How much effort would it take to allow the boulder to roll down the hill? Almost no effort at all. The effort would be to get the boulder all the way back to where it was before. You are already a non-smoker that doesn't want to smoke. When the boulder falls, you would simply be a smoker that doesn't want to smoke. I want you to imagine there is a price when even when you were a smoker, you would not have been willing to pay for a cigarette. Maybe you know what that figure would be. 100, 200, 300. The price is rarely in the cost. The price is always in the consequences. So as you breathe in and breathe out, feel that you can take pride in coming this far in the journey. You can feel good that momentum is already being generated. You're so close to the top of the hill, and when the boulder hits the top of the hill, you're a non-smoker for life that will never ever smoke again, not because you can't, but because you don't want to. I want you to imagine the kind of situations that in the past led to a setback, felt like you were being dragged back. But you're wiser now than you were before. And I want you to replay those moments from a position of wisdom, knowing what you now know. How would you handle those exact same situations differently? How do you keep making progress rather than allow the boulder to roll all the way back down to the beginning? Breathe in and breathe out. And when you know what you would do differently, let me know by nodding your head. And then I want you to imagine you are agonizingly close to getting the boulder to the very top of the hill. The very top of the hill is flat. When the boulder is there, it's stationary. It won't move. When the boulder gets to the top, you would have to choose to push the boulder all the way down the hill. So imagine it's 6 months in the future. You've been a non-smoker for 6 months. You can now confidently spend time with other smokers with no desire to smoke. You've dealt with some stressful occasions, moments of sadness, and yet you did not smoke. When you've got that far, it then requires effort to become a smoker again. So as you breathe in and breathe out, I wonder, how willing would you to invest effort to become a smoker that doesn't want to smoke? And if your unconscious feels that you are perhaps days, weeks, or months away from being a non-smoker that will never smoke again, let me know by nodding your head. And if that future feels appealing, let me know by nodding your head. Is there any part remaining that desires a future of coughing up blood? Desires a future of perhaps having a shorter lifespan? Is there any part of your unconscious mind that would trade perhaps 5 or 10 years of your life just for the temporary gratification of a cigarette? Over the next few days and weeks, you'll start to figure out what non-smokers believe, how they make evaluations, how they avoid any temptation whatsoever. You'll find yourself asking questions like a detective, figuring out new ways of thinking about things as your unconscious aligns with this new identity of being a non-smoker that doesn't want to smoke. And perhaps you're just weeks away from being a non-smoker that could never be even persuaded to smoke. Feel that you're making progress as you start to imagine a future where the money you used to spend on cigarettes, you ring fence for things that you would never have justified spending money on before, but now you can because you've magically manifested that money from improving your life anyway. Imagine a future where you become a role model to those that matter the most of how to make a significant change, no matter how old you are, no matter how long you've been doing something. You become evidence that change is always possible. You could imagine a future of getting healthier, fitter, of reversing that biological clock. If you've had a couple of decades of speeding up your biological clock, isn't it a good idea to reverse that biological clock? As you imagine going forward and hearing compliments from people that you know would never resort to flattery, saying you how good you look, saying that you've lost weight, you look fitter, you look healthier, you look younger. Get a glimpse of the pride, the satisfaction you would feel from feeling your life moving in exactly the direction you want to take it. That's it. Or, at any point in time, you can push that heavy boulder all the way back down the hill and go back to how things were, whenever you choose. As you breathe in and breathe out, imagine walking down to the bottom of the hill and seeing that boulder firmly fixed at the top. I want you to get a sense that your future may require a struggle, but the struggle is temporary. And struggles lead to satisfaction. And the satisfaction becomes a deterrent from going back to old habits and old ways. The fact that it's difficult leads to the pride, leads to the satisfaction, leads to something meaningful. As you walk away from that boulder, you see a spiral staircase, and you walk up, and you find yourself in a dream. And it occurs to you that that dream is coming from a part of you fast asleep on a comfortable bed in a penthouse apartment in a big city. As you leave the bed, you look out of those full-length, large windows looking out over the skyline, feeling a wonderful sense that you're breathing in fresh air. You are a non-smoker. You're a non-smoker wherever you are in the world, whoever you're with. That doesn't change. And then imagine that you're floating out of the window, hovering in the sky, floating out, perhaps over the river or a sea, until you're looking at a picture on a wall, and then see someone that looks exactly like you, your conscious mind relaxed, and step into that version of you, taking all of the changes, solidifying an identity, priming and inoculating yourself from a setback in the future. You are a non-smoker that has no desire to smoke. You get your pleasure from noticing the progress you've made. That's what makes you feel good. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, connect fully with the present moment as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.